ReefDudes is sponsored by Ecotech Marine and Bulk Reef Supply. Today we're going to update on the poison dart frog vivarium. What's going on, guys? Devin from ReefDudes. Now, it's been a little while since we've done an update on my little jungle, and I figured it'd be a fun day to get into it. Lots of people know about terrariums, which is basically, an enclosure with live plants. It turns into a vivarium once you add little creatures like dart frogs, which are super cool. And it's a really cool contrast having this jungle beside the reef tank, so let's get to it. So on one side of the office, we have the saltwater aquarium. And next we have the desk, and on the other side we have the jungle or the vivarium. So it's a super cool contrast, and I really do love it. Now these guys are endless entertainment. I will be sitting at my desk working, and all of a sudden I'll see a couple of them like climbing to the glass or peeking over the edge staring, and be like, hey, you, where's the fruit flies at? Or you'll see them fly across and like leap from one side of the tank to the other. Like, they're super entertaining, and you can tell they're definitely friendly. Like, they're pretty bold. There's been once or twice I've had one kind of try and jump out of the tank with the doors open. Got the pooch down there, so hopefully none jump out today, but when you're recording with the doors open, it's always a bit of a risk. So let's keep that guy in there. But they are very, very colorful. These guys are Dendrobates auratus. These specifically, they're called El Cope for their color variant. One of the main reasons I went with these ones is because they do well in a group. I have 6 in this tank, and I love that. There's lots of ones like Tinctorius where you can only have a pair, but having 6 in this tank, there's always something going on. I generally will look over and see 4 or 5 frogs at once, and yeah, I just love how much activity, how bold they are, how much movement they are in the tank. Now everything is automated. I do have the misting system in there, and multiple times per day the misters kick on, and it keeps the humidity in the tank. So it's really, really easy, especially if you come from like a reef tank. The tank is pretty much automated. I have an aquarium light on there for lighting schedule, so I can have it warmer or cooler throughout the day. I got the mister to keep the proper humidity, water all the plants. And even look at the plants, like that guy. It's a super bright red crypt, like very, very pretty, very, very colorful. And that, I got my little Bioactive Dart, it's like a little palm tree. Super cool guy. Recently I added some pitcher plants. Again, super duper cool. Another pitcher plant over here. And again, I feed the tanks fruit flies, so really easy, and I'm sure they'll get their feed as well. You've got ferns that have just sprouted out all on their own from the moss mix. And I think, I don't know, I just love the life. It's just such a cool contrast to a reef tank. Those guys, the bromeliads, really cool. Frogs like to make little babies in there. And again, the crypt, super, super bright. I've also been digging the jewel orchids lately. Now, coming up, I did cover my tree in moss, so it definitely gave it a very realistic look. And the moss has almost taken over some of the vines, though, so I may have to do a little bit of a toning back at some point. But overall, it gives it very, very cool jungle vibes. And this one I actually made out of PVC. Then I coated in spray foam, and then I coated it in aquarium silicone, and then I pressed in cocoa fiber, and it worked really, really well. But just the live plants, like jewel orchids, these guys are awesome. Definitely love the color and just the different colorful striations in their veins. Little froggies everywhere, like they're super curious, they're super friendly. Again, you don't really want to handle them too much, but if they jump out of the tank, it's not a big deal to grab them and put them back in. Just be gentle with them. Now, one really cool thing is always watching them hunt flies and eat. Same with feeding the fish. Everyone loves watching the fish eat. It's really cool watching the frogs hunt down little tiny fruit flies, and their little tongue comes out at 90 miles an hour and just snipes the fruit flies. So it's cool to watch them. Some of the vines, similar thing, made those covered in aquarium silicone and then rolled in cocoa fiber, and made very realistic vines, and moss is obviously growing on it. The frogs will jump and climb them, so it has a lot of cool jungle vibes to the tank, and I really am digging those. Now, of course, overkill is most things I do, but we are using an XR30 freshwater on the tank, and is a really good full spectrum for growing plants. I love the aquarium lighting because I can ramp it up, I can ramp it down, I can have cooler, warmer light periods of the day and just really give that natural sunset vibes, and I think that's good for myself as well as the frogs. Also, again, we got the mister, got my controller up there, I got a little 40 mil fan, and that guy runs 24/7. It just adds a little extra airflow in the tank and keeps the glass crystal clear, and I'm really big on that. This is your living art in a sense, and I see some tanks that are just covered in like misty tanks you can't even see, and then to me that just takes away from it. So crystal clear glass to be able to view and enjoy your animals that you keep, I think is very, very important. If we come down the other side, I did also add a little cocoa hut in here, and this is more for when the frogs are breeding. They will lay their eggs inside of the cocoa hut, and there's just like a little plant sauce underneath, what makes it really easy to remove it. So if we do take a peek inside, you can see on the right hand side there actually is an egg right there. So that will turn into a tadpole. And, you know, after a few weeks, it'll eventually turn into a little tadpole. And that, again, it takes a few months, but eventually it will grow into a future frog, which is really, really cool. Now, that's one of the things of this hobby. I decided to try raising some tadpoles because it would be fun. And now I ended up with a bunch more frogs. So here are the little tadpoles in the making. You can see them swimming around. And now some of these guys are a couple months old. There is one in here that is starting to grow his hind legs. So let's see if we can find him. Of course, he's hiding for the camera. But you can see his little tiny legs in the back there swimming around. So those are going to turn into full proper legs. He'll spread his front legs, and after that he'll start absorbing his tail. And once he absorbs his tail, I actually have a secondary vivarium I built for a bit of a grow out, and then I'll move him into there. So I'll show you guys that one in a bit. But it's really cool to see the full circle of life, and you definitely know your frogs and stuff are happy if they're breeding, making babies. Now, of course, after having a reef tank, I did drill this and did put a bulkhead in the bottom for drainage, and I think this just makes it so much easier. I have the 5-gallon container below it, and if I overwater, I can water as much as I want, then it will just go into the container. Now, instead of using the clay bells on the bottom, I did use aqua mesh and the big sponge. It just makes it super light. It's easier to move if required, and has, you know, awesome drainage above it. And then it comes in there, so I can water as much as I want, don't have to worry about it. I got the matching container on the left hand side. Now there is a float valve in the back, and this is actually plumbed to my reef tank. So whenever my reef tank gets topped off, so does this container, which means I never have to worry about refilling it, which makes it very, very, very easy. If we look on the other side, I do have all my fruit flies on here, and honestly the hardest part of keeping dart frogs is culturing fruit flies. It takes you a couple minutes, I mean, you know, 5 minutes once a week, and it's not hard to do, but once you get over the fact that you got to culture flightless fruit flies, it's pretty dang easy. That's honestly really the hardest part of keeping dart frogs. So overall, dart frogs are incredibly easy to keep. Just the whole natural vivarium is like a really cool aspect to it. Like, you can get a little mushroom growing over there. And that all came from like the musk moss that I originally used to start kind of seed all the stuff. So it's really cool how you can have this like natural jungle on you. Hey, back in there, little buddy. See, always trying to escape with the doors open. It's the only tricky part of filming. Now, I also did set up a second vivarium for all the little babies, so let's go check that out. Now, after breeding all the tadpoles, I had to figure out where am I going to put them? Where am I going to grow them out? So we did set up this leap enclosure. So the leap habitat's been like an awesome little grow tank, and is really filling in very nicely. It's lit with an AI blade freshwater, and it works really well for getting that ramp up, ramp down. Now, the enclosure itself is made out of that, like kind of a polycarbonate, or whatever they use for science, that corrugated plasticky material. So I did attach all the sides of it with spray foam, and then I pushed in cocoa fiber as it was drying, and that worked really well to give it a very natural-ish kind of background. And again, I poked in some sticks and other stuff on it, which we can go back and do a video on that one at some point if you want. Now, with this one, it is starting to grow nicely. Again, we got more jewel orchids, more vines, all these cool stuff in here. Even looking at the logs, like, it gives you kind of that naturalistic, you know, aquascaping vibe and little tunnels with some of the cool driftwood I found for it. So really, really happy with how this one is growing in. Now, most of the little frogs in here, I think they're hiding right now, so we'll feed them in a bit and see if we can lure some of them out. There you go. Knew that'd work. They're already starting to come out of hiding. It's funny, since it filled with so much plants, it gives them a lot more hiding spots, so being so tiny, they're definitely a little harder to find. But as they're getting bigger, they're starting to get a lot of their nice, really blue coloration, which is awesome. When they first come out as tadpoles, a lot of the time they're kind of darker, not as more muted colors. But you're definitely starting to see more of that like iridescent-ness to them, which I think is pretty awesome. So I think I have 5 or 6 babies in this one now. And again, there's a bunch more tadpoles. Some of those ones sprout into little froglets. They'll be moving in here as well. Yeah, it's so cool watching them hunt because they are so fast. That little tongue comes out at like 90 miles an hour. Like, it's just like you blink and it's already in their mouth. I'll have to see if I can get some slow-mo footage and like slow it down to them eating later. It'd be kind of cool to see. In all of my vivariums, I use these little sensor push sensors. They work over Bluetooth, and they're super cool. They log the temperature and humidity within your enclosures, and you can see all real time as well as the history. And if you get the gateway, then you can check it from anywhere, set up alerts and all that fun stuff. So if you guys want to check these out, I will link them in the comments. But they're by far the coolest sensors I've found for monitoring vivariums. Again, this new super bright red crypt I added. It's like really cool colors. And look up at the top, this one's more pinky. It was actually came in the same pot, so I'm thinking this one will probably get more red now that it's so high up, close to the light. Same that guy, get really cool pink striations in the veins in the plant and all the pitcher plants. Like there's so many really cool plants. So I don't know, it's kind of a weird contrast to corals as the plants are kind of sucking me in a little bit too with all the quote-unquote land corals. And some more pitcher plants over here. Should be pretty much self-sufficient with the fruit flies that I feed the dart frogs. I'm sure some will wander in there and I'll feed the plants. Now when they're hunting for flies, if you actually watch, that middle back toe just keeps puttering the ground. And I actually learned it's because they're trying to simulate the sound of rainfall to lure the bugs out, which is kind of cool. So hopefully I inspired some of you guys to get your own vivarium, especially if you're into aquariums. It's super duper easy to have the dart frogs, you know, relative to a reef tank. I also think it provides such a cool contrast, you know, between worlds of, you know, underwater reefs to the jungle. I mean, they both have super colorful little creatures in it. They both have really cool colored, you know, plants, corals. I like to call them land corals. But yeah, it's super cool. I mean, it's really easy. I mean, the light and the misting system is really all you need. The hardest part of it, you know, is culturing the fruit flies, which maybe takes 5 minutes once a week. So again, super easy and super cheap once you actually get into it. And it is beautiful. So if you guys got any questions on the vivarium, let me know in the comments below. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.